thanks for joining. I'm Ariel Moulet from the SOFIA Science Center, and today we're doing a short webinar on the ongoing program to fund archival research on SOFIA. And BG Anderson, who is principal scientist at SOFIA, will be going through the details on how to apply for funding and available resources and everything you need to know to make the most successful application. BG, do you want to start?
Sure. We have all of two externals, but that's great. So welcome to both Gina and Jorge. It's good to see you guys. All right. Well, at least we can do a bit of a dress rehearsal. So Tubbs, if you could forward a slide, please. So for you probably all know this, but I'll say it anyway. SOFIA introduced a archival call with the cycle 8 regular call about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And since then, we've been issuing 2 standalone archival calls, which I will refer to as the SARPs, the SOFIA Archival Research Program. So we just released, 10 days ago, we released the 3rd one of these. And of course, the reason we do that is because, like with all big observatories, there are data in the archives that are actually very good, except it just hasn't been published for one reason or another. One reason is because the pipelines have been upgraded and enhanced quite significantly since the original cycles of observation. So there's some really good data in there. And also with the archive, SOFIA archive growing, there are many of the world's favorite targets in the sky that have been observed with disparate and separate programs and instruments where the focus may have been on the individual observations and no one actually did the synergy programs, etc. Also, the SOFIA legacy programs are really firing up and going along, and they are big, lots of data, and there's no proprietary period for legacy data. So there's quite a bit of information and data available in these things. So we wanted to be able to support that kind of work, and with NASA's support, we are doing that. So next slide, please. So for the 3rd round of the SARP, which we are now in here, we issued a call on May 2nd with the proposal deadline in July, early July, July 8th, and we'll have a formal update in June 10th. The currently expected total funding available is about $1 million. There are 2 proposal categories available. That's the regular ones, which are sort of, normal to large programs, which will be 2-year periods, and you are allowed to request up to $175K per year. Because of the expected SOFIA close down, there will be no cost extensions above the 2 years for these expected. There's also a category of small proposals, which are, very focused research, where a funding level is expected of about 50 to maybe 75K. And while not exclusive, this category is specifically intended to allow graduate students or very early career scientists to be able to propose in even a situation where they would normally not be able to. So we are, for instance, allowing a US lead investigator to be the grant PI if you wish, if the home university does not allow grad students to be formal PIs. And also for this reason, we are not demanding that the budgets that people submit, though we do require budgets, but for this reason, we're not requiring that those budgets in the proposal stage be generated by the department contract office or equivalent. SOFIA's archival program complements the general data analysis program ADAP that headquarters puts out, but you cannot ask for the same work to be supported by both. So once we've gone through the reviews, we will coordinate with NASA headquarters and make sure that we don't double dip in there. And as in previous years now, we will be conducting the proposal review also for SARP3 in anonymous mode, so in DAR mode. Next slide, please. So a few more notes about how the call is structured. Because this is for funding and funding coming from the US, NASA, it's effectively or in reality only open to US affiliated scientists. Of course, the archive is open, so anyone can use the archive, but because this is funding, it doesn't make any, it's meaningless for non-US organizations to be PIs. We will entertain and allow non-US astronomers to be co-Is and be counted in the project and the tasking as long as they don't receive funding. You can ask for additional money and additional funding for existing programs. But if you do, you really need to explain clearly in the justification how this archival work will extend the previously funded carried out work. So you can't just say, oh, we need more money and to finish. You have to explain that. Similarly, if you're the original PI, so if you are the cycle, let's say cycle 8 PI, you can still ask for SARP funding to continue and extend the analysis of your data, but here again, you have to be very clear about this and then justify well why it is and how it is this relates to the original probe. And you are allowed to work on supporting data outside and above and beyond the SOFIA data, but it needs to be in direct support of doing the SOFIA work. So that's another aspect where you can do it, but you just need to be clear. Next slide, please. So as with the earlier proposals here, the process with the DAR is that you need to separate the science and the team information. And this is supported by use spots, so it shouldn't be too hard. And since we've done it a few times, those of you who proposed to SOFIA before will recognize this. But just be aware of this and be careful not only that you separate, but you make sure that you do try to anonymize the science part of the proposal. We will be paying attention to this, and if you do things like overload the proposal with your own references, that might be deemed. And Margaret, as our small director, do have the authority to disregard a proposal that clearly violates the anonymization requirement. It is though important to recognize that the point here is not to hide yourself. So you are allowed to reference your own papers, but it's just don't show who you are. So, there's a balance there, but the occasional citation of yourself is not the problem. Next slide, please. So there's quite a bit of supporting documentation and work available. Ariel is leading a work series of webinars coming up this summer on synergies with the Infrared Archive, and you can see the schedule down here on the right. There was a very good winter school for SOFIA that took place a couple of months ago. Those talks are all available online. You can get there. And there's been updates to the SOFIA cookbooks for data analysis and instruments. And you can see those links down there. So there's quite a bit of information on how to perform SOFIA data analysis. Next slide, please. There's additional resources both on the archive, where we put together some archival highlights and some synergies with Alma and James Webb on the SOFIA website. As I mentioned, the SOFIA legacies do not have any proprietary period, so there is no concept of poaching data from them. That is part of the agreement that data is public from day one, as soon as it's put in the archive. And there's a list of the archival programs on the website as well. There's an even more explicit description of the Galactic Center Legacy program that Matt Hankins led. And then there are, URSA have tutorials or we have tutorials for the URSA archive, and there's also information on the pipelines. So these are all resources that you can go and peruse at your leisure. We'll post these slides so you have the links. Next slide, please. I think with that, there's very little else that I really want to say here now. So if you have any questions now, you can ask me or Ariel or any of the other scientists that are on this telecon, or you can send a question to our SOFIA help desk or me. My email is down there at the bottom at your leisure. I think, let's see, was there anything else? Is there another slide, Tops? Yeah, this is just a slide showing that the new two PDF submission buttons in USpot, but maybe we've used that enough cycles now. That's not as critical, but you'll see this in USpot. Next slide. I think there might have been one more. Okay, let's go a little bit back to the writing here. Just a few notes on things to avoid and things to do. So when you preview your PDF file in USpot, you will see the full one. We don't yet now have a option for showing the one that the TAC will see without the team information, but effectively it's easy to know because it's the science justification PDF plus the main part of the wrapper, except PI information. And so just a couple of advices and suggestions for anonymization. Avoid things like we have previously shown, or as in our study XXX. Just anonymize that to say as shown by, etc. And again, don't overload your justification with your own references. A few of them here and there where they are required and necessarily, that's fine and appropriate, and has not been a problem in previous cycles. Robert asked me to, or suggested I mention, which I agree with, is that we have avoided going through the sort of the nature science style of numbered references, because that's so unusual for most astronomers that we're leaving it, at least for now, as the standard AppJ format. All right, final slide, if there is one more. Nope. So if you go back to top, please, to the questions slide with the addresses and stuff like that, and I will just ask if there are any questions or any comments from Robert, Ariel, or anyone else on the small team.
Hi, BG. I have a question. Gina here.
Yep.
So for determining whether you submit like a small proposal, you said that it's graduate students and early career researchers are supposed to do those the small ones. But I'm wondering if the amount of work from more experienced researcher that's being proposed is just small, would that justify going for a small proposal?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and I think, because these proposals will be evaluated not just for the science but for the reasonable balance between proposed work and requested resources. If you have a project that is only, a few months worth of your work, then even with full overheads, it may not be more than 50K or so. And so it's not unallowed for more experienced and more senior researchers to use the small proposal group. But yes, you may propose there without being early career or junior. But the reason we put it in there was that in most cases, the regular ones, one, they scare away the grad students, and two, even those institutions that will allow grad students to be PIs, they're not comfortable having a grad student have a $200,000 grant. So yes, if the amount of work you're proposing is more appropriate for the small category, anyone can use that category.
Thank you. Yeah.
I had nothing to add to your presentation, but people can unmute if they have questions.
So we will several from the SMO, I won't, but several from the SMO will be at the AAS, and so if you have questions there, you can always find them at the SOFIA booth or in the corridors and the rows between the posters, and ask questions.
Okay, well, if there are no more questions, we can probably stop here, and we will have the recording up shortly if you have to come back to this presentation.
All right.
Thank
you
you,
very
BG.
much. And write proposals. We will fund them, and you'll have a chance to do your favorite work with salary support.
Thank you all for joining. Thanks, BG.
Thanks. Bye-bye.